Would you ever have guessed that something so small would affect our lives in such a massive way? Well, right now, it seems like everyone is talking about phones, and specifically phones in the school, in the classroom.
Have zero tolerance for cell phones in class.
And across the country, from New York to Florida, California, Virginia, Minnesota, Indiana, South Carolina, lawmakers and educators are changing policies and making laws that are determining whether students should have their phones in the classroom and during the school day. I think we can all agree that these things have a major presence in our lives. A study last year done by Pew Research found that 97% of teens in the US are on a smartphone. 97%. And when you look at high school students specifically, 7 out of 10 high school teachers said that phones were a major source of distraction during the school day.
Here's your choice. You give me the phone and you might get it back in 8 minutes, or I take it to the office and you never see it again.
At Parent Protect, we talk to a lot of parents, a lot of students, and educators all about this issue, and there are a lot of opinions. Many people are excited and many are really upset. And that's why we made this video. We're not trying to sell you on one point or another. We simply want to address the issue, look at both sides, and ask the question of why is this conversation happening right now and why is this so important? These bad boys have changed a lot since the first mobile cell phone came out in 1973.
You almost can't hold it like this. So, features, it makes calls. What? That's it?
After that, we even had car phones. Car phones, you can only use it in your car.
My car phone. Driving, speaking simultaneously.
Who would have thought that was cool? But there was one event that I really think is important in bringing us to the point that we're at today with our smartphones. It can all be traced back to one event in 2007 when Steve Jobs announced the first iPhone.
So how are we going to take this to a mobile device? Well, what we're going to do is get rid of all these buttons and just make a giant screen.
This was the first phone that was not just going to be used for texting, calling, maybe the occasional email with friends, but this was a phone, an iPod, and an internet communication device. Everyone that heard about this was mind blown. Apple led the way in creating the App Store, which was a first of its kind place where any developer, anyone, could make an app for an educational purpose, entertainment, communication. You get the point. Anyone could make an app that we could all download on our devices. Now, today, you and I have more processing power on the smartphones in our pockets than the computers that filled up massive rooms 50 years ago. Yeah. We've come a long way. Now, our phones are not just phones. They're internet communication devices. They're ways to learn. They're tools to connect on social media, to consume content. The list goes on. Our phones have algorithms and AI assistants that make our lives easier and also keep us coming back for more. And it's important to recognize that all of this tech, all of this processing power that we have access to, it's impacting our brains in a major way, especially when we don't have screen time limits and don't use the tech in moderation. You and I can agree smartphones have impacted us. But what does the research say? Over half of students in the US receive over 237 notifications every single day. Now, when you do the math and you look at that the average teen in the US in that same group is awake for about 17 hours, that's a new notification on their phone every 4.5 minutes. That's a lot of distractions the students are facing every single day. The constant stream of notifications and updates we have, it's led to this thing called FOMO. Fear of missing out. It's easy to feel like if we're not on our devices, if we're not constantly connected, we might be missing something, missing out, losing out, and that can affect our mental health. According to a study among those 12 to 15, they found that those who spent 3 or more hours a day on social media faced double the risk of anxiety and depression.
I have anxiety and depression. Ugh, who doesn't these days?
In 2023, the nation's top doctor, Dr. Vivek Murthy, he issued a warning that there is ample indicators that social media poses a profound risk of harm to students, to adolescents, and to kids. In the summer of 2024, Dr. Murthy went even further, urging Congress to add warning labels to social media, warning parents that before they let their kids on social media, that they should be aware of the dangers and the very real risk of harm. That's a lot. And the impact of these devices isn't just at home, it's not just when we're out and about, but it carries over into school. And this issue isn't black or white. There's a lot of gray area. But right now, a lot of school leaders and educators are saying that the positives of having a device, of having a smartphone at school, are far outweighed by all the negative consequences and negative side effects that come from when students have these in the classroom. There was a recent national survey done asking primary and secondary school leaders and administrators about the effect of social media and the effect of tech, and 42% in this study said that they believe that social media has led to the deteriorating mental health that we're seeing among the nation's youngest students. And smartphones can help students at school. They can help us access new information, learn things in new ways, find content that we're interested in. But research has even suggested among students that smartphone use is linked to poorer sleep, increased anxiety, and even lower grades.
C minus.
Whether it's cyberbullying, students being distracted because of the constant push notifications, or even just social isolation, with students choosing devices over conversations with their friends in breaks at school, all these reasons and many more have led a lot of educators in the US to favor banning smartphones completely. Jonathan Haidt, the NYU social psychologist and author of The Anxious Generation, he's written that banning phones in schools is the easiest and fastest step that we can take to improve youth mental health. And it's important to note that this didn't all just start in the US. Even before leaders were taking efforts here and having this conversation here, other countries across the world have been having similar conversation and facing the same issues. These are just a few of the countries across the world that have already taken efforts to ban phones in learning environments. You ready? China, France, Nigeria, Brazil, Sweden, Cambodia, Spain, South Korea, Egypt, and Italy, to name just a few. And even this summer, Greece banned phones in schools too. If you're like us, you're probably wondering, I hear a lot about these bans, they're talked about on the news, but do they really even work? Good question. Do these policies actually make a school environment, a learning environment, a classroom any better? Fair question. We've talked with a lot of schools that have these policies, and I just want to share a few examples. In Florida, in Orange County Public Schools, they've issued a ban on phones at school. And they even have a phone jail that if a student is caught using their phone, the phone gets taken for the rest of the day and the phone gets sent to phone jail. Yeah, kind of funny.
Phone. In the bucket, phone.
One teacher said the change among students was remarkable. Another principal said that she had only seen positive things and positive change among the students. Still, students haven't loved the new restrictions, especially at first. A lot of students feel like they're handing over their freedom, and they're not too happy about that.
But this is so not fair!
Specifically, some students say they just really miss being able to use their phone at lunch. Makes sense. In Albany, New York, at Bethlehem Central High School, the principal there said their phone ban has been completely transformational for their students. Some students there have even said they feel a little relieved, like they don't have the pressure to respond to posts, messages, comments, stories, and everything that comes with it on their phone during the school day. It's a nice break. In Thornton, Colorado, at Stargate School, the principal there has said that she loves seeing the students interact. She said since they enacted the ban, students have started playing games at lunch, which they weren't doing before. And she says she's seeing more conversation at lunch tables than she's ever seen since devices were around. She said they haven't seen a single cyberbullying issue since the new policy has gone into effect. We've talked about the good, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are some very valid arguments as to why a phone ban might not be the best thing for your school or for your community. The first big concern students have is around school safety. Many have said that in the event of an emergency, they would feel safer if they had their phones. Still, a lot of school safety experts have said that having one central way to communicate in emergency leads to a safer school and classroom. I can see both sides. Some students still say they wish they had a way to take pictures or video or capture something at school if something ever happened that feels off. Now, without a phone, they can't. Another fair argument is in many districts, students still have tech. They have tech that is issued by the school, whether that's a Chromebook, an iPad, or something else. And a lot of people say cyberbullying, negative content, a lot of the bad issues that come with having phones in a classroom can still happen on school-issued tech. Others have highlighted how many students rely on their phones, specifically lower-income students who might have a job to go to after school or who might be caring for a sick relative. They need a phone. One high school student we heard from talked about how she's taking college courses. She's trying to become an adult, to be independent, but because she only has a smartphone to complete her coursework, and now she can't use her phone at school, she feels stuck. And lastly, many students have highlighted that once they graduate from high school, they're going to go into a job or into a college environment where they will have access to tech and phones, and that not having access to tech in school and having a ban in place on phones isn't adequately preparing them for the real world that they're about to graduate into. Ultimately, cell phone bans are one way to address a side effect of an issue, but in reality, they may not address the deeper cause and some of the deeper challenges that come with tech that have led to all the negative mental health impacts that we hear about, all the FOMO, and all the challenges. So after all this, where do we go from here? While locking up or banning phones might or might not be the best policy for your school, for your district, for your community, I think it raises a broader question. How have these devices impacted us? And how are they impacting us every single day? Today, I'd encourage you to think about, am I proud of the way I'm using my device? Am I proud of the amount of time I'm spending? Am I proud of the things I'm looking at, the people I'm interacting with? And if you have a family, think about it too. Would I want my kids to be spending the same amount of time and doing the same things on a device as I am? Would you be proud if your kids modeled the exact same habits that you have when it comes to your phone use? And maybe you're watching this video and you aren't exactly proud of how much time you spend with your phone or the relationship that you've built with all the tech in your life. And that's okay. But we'd encourage you, after watching this, think about one change, just one simple change you'd like to make. This could be as basic as being intentional about putting up your phone or turning it off when you're at a meal with family or friends. It could look like setting up screen time in the settings on your phone. Or this could be bigger. This could look like trying out a dumb phone or even deleting all the social media apps that distract you and waste your time. We'd love to continue the conversation and hear from you. Does your school have a cell phone ban? Are you trying to work with kids who are overwhelmed that they can't have their phone at school? Or are you a teacher who's celebrating that you don't have to deal with phones in the classroom? Let us know. Shoot us a DM on Instagram @ParentProtect, or you can also send us an email, team@parentprotect.com. I'm Joshua from Parent Protect. We'll see you next time.